Good morning, I'm Gary DeWaal, and this is Bridging the Week from March 4th through 8th, 2019, and today is March 11th, 2019. Unexpectedly, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission announced a new initiative to encourage non-registrants to self-report foreign corrupt practices, which it claimed might also constitute violations of law and rules it administers. Non-registrants who turn themselves in, cooperate with a CFTC investigation, and remediate their violations will benefit from a presumption that the CFTC's Division of Enforcement will ordinarily recommend no fine to the Commission, although it appears likely their situations will be referred to other law enforcement agencies for consideration. Separately, the National Futures Association formally proposed bylaw and rule amendments, as well as a new interpretive notice aimed at making swaps-associated persons smarter about swaps markets and applicable regulations. Last week, I had the honor of speaking about blockchain technology at SIFMA's Securities Industry Institute at the Wharton School of Business in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This week, I get to coordinate a fantastic panel of international regulators who will discuss implications of new technology on regulation at the 2019 FIA Annual Industry Conference in Boca Raton, Florida. So I can hurry to catch my flight and not be late for my panel. Let's get started. James McDonald, Director of Enforcement of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, announced a new initiative aimed at encouraging non-CFTC registrants to voluntarily self-report violations of the Commodity Exchange Act, the principal law overseen by the CFTC, involving foreign corrupt practices. According to a special enforcement advisory, for non-registrants who self-report such violations, cooperate with the CFTC, and remediate their violations, the Division of Enforcement will recommend to the Commission a resolution of their wrongdoing, quote, with no civil penalty, absent aggravating circumstances involving the nature of the offender or the seriousness of the offense, end of quote. Mr. McDonald announced the new policy in a speech at the American Bar Association's National Institute on White-Collar Crime. According to the Division of Enforcement Director, acts constituting foreign corrupt practices may also implicate CFTC-administered laws prohibiting fraud, manipulation, false reporting, or other offenses. He indicated that the CFTC works closely with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice to ensure that investigations of such matters are properly coordinated. Mr. McDonald committed that to the extent that the CFTC brings enforcement action as part of such coordinated activity, the CFTC will ensure that any fine it requires or restitution or disgorgement are properly coordinated with the other law enforcement agencies. It is not clear what prompted Mr. McDonald's announcement at this time. However, he indicated that the CFTC currently has quote-unquote open investigations related to how corrupt practices in any number of forms might impact commodity markets prices. Stay tuned. The National Futures Association proposed an amended bylaw and rule, as well as a new interpretive notice to require that all associated persons of Future Commission merchants, introducing brokers, commodity pool operators, and commodity trading advisors acting as swap firms, as well as persons designated as APs at swap dealers and major swap participants, satisfy certain minimum proficiency requirements related to swaps. Under NFA's proposed new rules, beginning February 1st, 2021, all existing and new APs at swap firm intermediaries or persons acting as APs at swap dealers and MSPs must satisfy either a long track or short track proficiency requirement depending on their job function. The proficiency requirements will test individual swap market knowledge as well as familiarity with regulatory requirements. Persons designated as APs in a swap dealers or MSPs sale and trading areas who negotiate, price, and or execute swaps with counterparties and or responsible for managing the swap dealers or MSPs swap-related risks must satisfy long track requirements, as must persons designated as APs who supervise such persons. Other persons at swap dealers or MSPs designated as APs, as well as persons designated as APs who are their supervisors and swaps APs and their supervisors at swap firm intermediaries may satisfy either the long or short track requirements. Since there were no registration requirements for persons designated as APs as swap dealers must maintain records that evidence relevant individuals have timely satisfied requisite proficiency requirements. A person will not be approved as a swap AP of a swaps firm intermediary unless the NFA receives evidence he/she has timely taken and passed a proficiency requirement. An individual who has satisfied a swaps proficiency requirement while at one firm is not required to resatisfy such requirement after he or she joins a new swaps firm intermediary, swaps dealer, or MSV, provided the start date occurs within 2 years after the last date of employment at the prior firm. These new rules are likely more complicated than the proficiency requirements themselves, and February 2021 will be here in no time. Be forewarned. And finally, CME Group proposed amendments to its market regulation advisory notice related to exchange-related positions that make clear that off-market prices for EFRPs must be for legitimate purposes and are more likely to be subject to regulatory scrutiny. Generally, EFRPs may be transacted at, quote, such commercially reasonable prices, end quote, as agreed by the parties, provided such prices conform to the applicable future or option price increments. The amended MRAN also adds a new question and answer to clarify that third-party systems accessible to multiple parties that allow for electronic matching or electronic acceptance of bids or offers for EFRPs are prohibited. However, parties may use communication technologies to bilaterally request EFRP quotes from one or more participants and to facilitate privately negotiated EFRPs. CME Group's revised MRAN is scheduled to be effective March 19th. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Bridging the Week. As always, there's more information in each article and more articles on the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. I'm Gary DeWaal. Have a great week, and until the next edition of Bridging the Week, ciao.